off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Hello, welcome back to the Night Country. But yeah, we're here to discuss True Detective Night Country. This part five, the
hmm
penultimate episode. But D, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? I know this is usually your favorite episode. No?
Yeah, about that.
No, this
Um,
didn't tickle your fancy. Didn't do it for you.
so we could just jump straight into it. So
The action.
kind of how I said like last week, I was like, they're starting to reveal the mystery, and now that the mystery is being unveiled, my question is the mystery interesting enough? And so far, I can say no. I'm. It's not. It's it's missing some elements. Things aren't connecting. Things weren't quite established in a way to make them effective. So overall,
Like,
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I don't want to say it's not interesting. Like it's overall uninteresting.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. It's not
Uninteresting.
interesting.
Um, I think it is. It feels like the mystery is separate from the show. I don't know. It's like a bunch of things randomly put together that are supposed to gel, I guess, or supposed to kind of make sense,
Mm,
but they just seem random. And I know sometimes, dude, you got to have your red herring, and I get all of that, but it feels like all of it has been, and I don't see how the caves have anything to do with anything. But maybe that's what part six is about. Like, I'm gonna give them a chance to make it all make sense, but I don't know, it just felt like they spent a lot of time on stuff that didn't matter in the long run, and they could have spent that time giving us more information on the things that would have made
mm,
the surprises make more sense or have a little
right,
more impact instead of just being there for shock value.
right. Because like I said, like in our group chat, I was like in like episodes like one, two, and three, instead of showing like 30-second overhead shots of snow falling, there could have been like, because yeah, some of these episodes, like I think episode three in particular, like really seemed to drag on. I'm like, that time could have been better spent establishing things. Now I know you're gonna say like run, but um when Danvers went to, the headquarters of the mines, and the lady met her at the door, that was setting up that she was going to be bad later. But of course we know she's going to be bad later, because like we are telegraphing that the people running the mines are bad people. So like when that reveal happens, it's not effective at all.
Orion, when she went to sit with the one of the ladies who just had a miscarriage. I don't know. It's just I don't know. I don't want this to be another Lamentations episode. The
No, no,
last one
no,
was
no, no,
bad
no.
enough.
So
But we really just have to just like get it out because I feel like I don't I want to say like this had potential, but I don't even feel like it did because I don't know what we're doing or what they're doing. I guess it's the thing. Um, why is Kavik there? Why is Oh, and that was the other thing. Your boy, Otis. He feels like again a person dropped in an episode just so we can have this big thing that just happened at the end of this episode.
mm,
Because other than that, like, what was his purpose?
Um, to
Oh,
expose
I want
a character.
I want to say this, and I want to say it now before I forget. Okay, because this is what was tripping me out about Julia. Okay, if I'm wrong, tell me now because I'm not above being wrong, of course. All right, Julia walked out into the ocean. Yes, that was the way she decided to end her time on this earth. She decided to end her life. She walked onto the into the ocean. Okay,
Mhm.
when she was cremated, her sister took had Rose take her out there, and she said, well, since you want to be in the ocean, she put her ashes in there, which is fine. That doesn't bother me at all. But it goes back to what I was going to say about the big climax, the end of this episode, when they had to get rid of Pryor's body. She said, take it to Rose and tell her to take it to Julia or something like that. With all of that, I'm saying if Julia walked out into the ice, and if you're going to take these bodies that don't need to be found out there to the same place, who found her body? Was the Coast Guard just doing a sweep? Like I still don't get, because I've been wondering since it happened, how did they find her? Like who? Because the Coast Guard called and was like, "Hey, we got
Yeah,
bad news." But then she went to the center. They didn't even know she was gone. So what makes sense if they said, "Hey, this person left our facility. We don't know where she went. Can somebody please go look for her? She has a tendency to go to this place. This might be a good starting place." And then the Coast Guard says, "Oh, I'm sorry, we found a body. This is where she was." But all of this was news to everybody. Did the Coast Guard, like I said, do they just come by and sweep every now and then and say, "Oh, here's a body"? And if that's the
but
case, why are we
there
taking the body to the same place?
therein lies the problem. Because when we're watching these shows, like to a certain degree, we're supposed to suspend disbelief. Like, don't look too hard because if you do, you know, things will look funny. Don't pull at this thread because if you do, it might unravel. But a lot of these decisions that are being made, you're just like, is this a thought process that someone would have? Like a lot of the logic and the rationale of this show, of these characters, of the things, the actions that put things into motion, it's like forcing, pegs into holes that don't quite fit. It's like trying to make it fit because like you said, if we don't want these bodies to be found, then
Like
why take
she
it to the
made it a
place?
point to say that. Yeah, never
Mhm.
found. She made it a
Then,
point to say
then,
that.
then, then then why take it to a place where a body was just found? And I will so because and this is pulling at that thread. So because once again, you can say, but run. This is foreshadowed when um Navarro went out to the ice and Rose said, I was calling for you. You just kept walking out into the ice, yada, 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 because we know that it's so frozen right now that, you know, there's like water underneath the ice, yada, yada, yada. But if you don't want that to be found, like what happens perhaps when the season change or when, so yeah, like I said, like there are a lot of things where like if you just tug at it slightly, it falls apart. And this is one of those things.
And it could be a different place, but that doesn't make sense because they're almost making it a point to say, why'd you walk out into the ocean like that? And you would think she put her sister in the place where she wanted to be. That was like she's making it a point to make you think that she's putting her back where she walked out to.
Mhm.
So it's and again, like you said, that might also be the problem because the supernatural doesn't work with True Detective because in my experience, the whole point of the show was us trying to figure out what happened, trying to solve the case. So you're going to pay attention to these types of things. So having to pay attention and suspend disbelief at the same time at this capacity, it doesn't work.
I
Like it's
will take
one
what you
thing
said.
to ignore a spiral, like this might be a conspiracy,
Yeah,
but like to the other parts of it is so much.
yeah.
It's just like I don't know what to
Uh,
ignore and what to pay attention to.
so I'm gonna take what you said like a step further, actually. So the premise of True Detective was like flipping true crime. Like this is how we look at true crime. This is our relationship with it. So True Detective is examining not the case per se, but the detective's relationship to the case and how it changed them. Um, Once again, it goes back to decisions because I also text you like the Wheeler thing. To me, that would have been water under the bridge. But also, like we haven't really established well enough. I'll say this well enough because we've hinted at it and we know like this like has really affected people, but we haven't really, in my opinion, established how the Annie K case and now this case is affecting people. Because I guess you could say if someone is truly affected by this case going on now, it would be, the youngest prior, but we aren't really, which is this a transition into the second thing that if you pull at, we're not really getting a lot about other than this moment because we now know that that was put into motion for this episode exactly, but we're not getting a lot about why Danvers makes Pryor her whipping boy essentially.
Why? Do you figure that out? I thought it was just because she's like he's a replacement
But
son. That's what I was thinking.
but now we know that all of that was put into motion just to get you the climax of this episode.
Okay.
So once again, we're writing characters specifically to make moments happen versus putting characters into motion and allowing the moments to, allowing them to create the moments. It's like, okay, I know I know this wants to happen. This needs to happen. So how can I move the characters toward this event versus, you know, like really establishing the characters and just letting them, naturally flow to this event, to this conclusion. It's like, no, we got to reach here. It's almost like I've been use this example a lot, but it's almost like how they write Marvel movies. They're like, okay, we know we have to have the big team up fight in the middle. So how can we get characters there?
Hmm. But they work. I can put it. They figured out to me. I mean, but you Marvel movies are superhero movies though. It's like we're already suspending disbelief because these are superheroes. We've got a
Mhm.
god of thunder and a man who's in a suit who's, the brainiacest, I know it's not a word, person in the world. And it's just that's fine. That's all fantasy though, right? Like that's cool. But this there's a fine line between mixing fantasy and reality and where they're saying like mental health versus spirituality, but I don't think they do a good job of doing that, because if you're telling me don't mistake the two, then you can't intertwine them though. Like it's not fair to me, the viewer, that you don't have like rules, right? Like
Mhm.
let's go with your Marvel example. Wanda was OP. Like everybody knew that. But that was, to me, I knew that there was nothing that was going to happen to Wanda that she couldn't handle, because they have made it very clear that she is not a person who can be taken down by anybody else. Like they just made that clear. So for Wanda to be defeated, she had to do it to herself, right? It was ridiculous, but that's the truth, and they stuck with it. With this, they're saying don't confuse the two, but they're not giving us any way to distinguish.
You raise a good point. You raise a good point because, all right, for this to be an extension of a show that already exists, like we have basically rules of how the world works. Like we play a lot with time, we play a lot with memory. We know sometimes details get fuzzy, and were you really seeing that spiral in the sky? Or were you not? And therefore we can it's almost a thing where you can say, I accept that this is happening, or it can be explained away using this. In this world, it's like you aren't setting clear boundaries as to like what this is supposed to be. Like it's almost like it's not grounded enough to be grounded, but it's not supernatural enough to be fully supernatural. And it's not like, and then it will come at like the most jarring moment. Like there's a scene when Navarro is going in the washer, she pulls some hair, and you're just like, there was no context in that particular moment, only to remind you that Navarro has been seeing visions. And when she goes back to the scene, presumably where I guess where Danvers' son was, and things like that. But it's like you haven't established this character or this world well enough for us to decipher this importance or decipher if it's even real or not, or why it should matter, or why it should matter if it's real or not.
Speaking of why it's real, I'm glad you brought that up because you asked the question, but I want you to answer it. Has anyone shown concern for that corpsicle other than the detectives? Does it seem like anybody in the town whatsoever cares about those scientists or researchers or whatever they were, engineers, scientists?
You know what? That is wild because now that you mention it, no, it seems like a relatively contained event.
Nobody seems to care. And you said
Like
that
there's
you
no
made me think about it.
hysteria in the town or
None,
anything.
none,
Yeah.
none at all. And I only thought about it because you saying Annie K, because that's the only link to her at this point. Those scientists, because she was in, she was in a cave or whatever. But it seems like the town, of course, is more concerned about the miscarriages because they know it's the water. And I guess in a roundabout way that comes back to them. But I I don't know. I don't think they
Mm.
care. Okay, let's we kind of we got to talk about the episode though because we really got to get into Hank Pryor
We do.
because I
Yeah.
have a real issue with that. And it's not because he ended up being sketchy or shady, like we kind of saw, because we said it, we were like, it looks a little fishy, but like it still felt very much like a cheat, right? It's like they needed somebody that was bad. And they let him be mysterious enough that we will believe it because I believe it, but
Yeah.
it's also like what? Like what? Just to be the
So
chief of police?
on a similar note, and I guess this is me falling into like traditional TV tropes, but apologies to Kavik because last week I was like, I feel like is it can be discovered, but that's to me like, and it's weird that I mistake that because I'm like, it would actually make sense if it turned out that he was bad because from episode one, you show us not to trust Hank Pryor, and then we see why. So it's like you, and it's not even a situation where um I was about to spoil one of our favorite shows, so I won't do that. So I'll say The Sixth Sense. It's not even a situation where if you look close enough, like they hear the truth in plain sight. It's like,
Hmm.
no, we're telling you from the jump, this guy isn't to be trusted. Like every
Yeah.
single episode, we're reminding you. And then guess what? Turns out, surprise, he actually is not to be trusted.
Surprise, surprise. And that's fine because again, I'll take responsibility for that too. It's like it's not their fault that they were like, well, it's I told you the whole time. It's not my fault you didn't pay attention or
But
you expected something else.
let me ask you this: um, is that is that compelling storytelling to you? Like, is that interesting storytelling to you?
It's interesting if he stays bad, right? Like, let's go back to say The Wire, right? I'll pick one of my favorite people, Omar. Omar was Omar the whole time. right? He didn't turn into anything other than Omar. So
But
when
but
he
and sorry to interject, but I'm gonna say this: he was also a character that had layers. The only layer that we had here, which is which I guess by the mechanics of the show, you can kind of say this was his kiss of death slash foreshadowing. Like we try to give him a moment where you feel sorry for him, but at every single turn, like when his mail order wife didn't show up is what I'm talking about. But at every single turn, like he was always like the same guy, but at the same time, like it's not like he had like multiple layers to him, is what I'm saying. It's not he wasn't like a multifaceted character. Like he was just an asshole from day one. And frankly, not a very interesting character because
what I'm saying.
because because two's going back to a mechanics thing. All right, so you promised me chief of police. Danvers is exiled to the town, and she becomes chief of police. Is that enough of a motivation? Like, is that a
No,
plausible motivation to start killing witnesses?
no, and not only that, this is what I'm also saying. So like even like you were saying, Omar had layers, right? But even if he didn't, like we knew who he was the whole time. There was never a moment where I saw him. And if y'all haven't watched The Wire, I'm sorry for the reference, but pretty much Omar is a person who robbed people, well, robbed drug dealers. That's what he did. That's always what he did. He was a person who looked out for himself and the people he loved, which is usually one person at a time. Really, that's the point. But we all knew who he was the whole time. There was never a time where we were like, oh, well, maybe he's like, a good guy on some level. And on some level, I guess everybody could be considered good, air quotes good. But prior, they made it like he's bad. Oh well, he's just sad. Okay, well he was misused. He was abused as a child. Oh, his wife didn't love him. Oh, he doesn't know how to love his son. So this is all just him. This is his bad, right? This is just him being a bad like person because he doesn't know how not to be. If you're going to put it in my face that he's evil, like put it in there. Like show me him doing something else bad, something being a jackass, like abusing people, abusing his authority. You didn't show me him doing any of that. If anything, you gave it to me more of Danvers, right? Danvers was more bad than they showed prior to be. So when it went from him saying all of this, and then on top of it, you show him showing his like tender side when it came to his son, right? Because when he's like, oh, I got put out the house. Do you mind if I come? He seemed actually even excited about it. Like, yeah, come on. So you show that he's got like a heart, right? And then you just throw this in my face. Oh, by the way, he's been in cahoots with this lady from the mine. He said, "I am not a killer." Like he made it a point to say, "I am not a killer," and then you go kill somebody 15 minutes later. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And nobody's a killer until they are. I get it, but like don't make it seem like you have this moral compass, right? I want to be chief of police, but there are things I'm not willing to do, and then go and do the thing you just said you weren't willing to do, right? I didn't tell you to kill her. No, you didn't tell me to kill the witness. Okay, great. Okay, so don't kill the witness. Like get rid of him in some kind of way, or scare him to death, or at least make him kill himself. Give him a whole shit ton of heroin. I don't know. But just to shoot the man while standing in the dang on kitchen at Danvers house, it did not make sense at all. Because what is your plan now? If your plan is to be chief of police, you are absolutely not going to be chief of police if you shoot this man in front of the current chief of police, unless he was planning to kill her too, which is possible. But like, so now you just a mass murderer. You went from I am not a killer to a mass murderer in order to be chief of police. That does not make sense, Bernie, at all. At all. And if they're gonna do that, make prior. very dumb, not just a little dumb. Like make him
Yeah.
just stupid because no sensible person would do that. None.
Mm.
Now, with that though, is there any way Peter knew about Hank? And I'm only asking because of this whole families first and don't forget that and all of that stuff. Is there Was that some kind of code or was that just regular, oh,
I,
hey, I'm your dad, she's not your family, you got to protect
I
me?
another good question because um you know Peter is a he's a little bit of a lovable idiot, but he's actually pretty sharp. So he is skeptical about the Wheeler story, so much so that he discovers that photos are basically reoriented to reflect the fact that um a left-handed man shot himself on the right, so the photos are flipped. But the moment that he discovers Eddie K's files in his dad's house, like no wheels get to turning. And I'm gonna say this: if you want me to believe that it's because of the son-father relationship, maybe omit the scene where the father punches the son in the face, because now we know that their relationship is fractured and he should be skeptical because it's not as strong as it should be. So it's like I said, it's just not, it's a lot of things that aren't like clicking from a storytelling standpoint.
I think they put that in there so we would believe that Peter would shoot his daddy in the head. That's what I believe. Just like you said, they make sure
Mhm.
that there's something there to justify something else. I think they made sure to show us that Hank is abusive, so that when it came down to it, we would believe that Peter could shoot his dad in the head.
Mhm.
I've never shot anybody. I assume that it's not an easy thing to do, right? Especially if it's your father. So him
Mhm.
not only shooting him, but shooting him in the head seems like a lot, like a whole lot. And I know that officers are taught to shoot to kill. I know this. I know they are. So I get it because I make a mistake and I don't shoot you, you shoot her. Now it's a whole mess. But like it just it felt like a big thing for shock value for this last 10 minutes of this penultimate episode so that people can be like, oh, and that is not the reaction I got. I said that, but I'm just like, oh my
No.
God. Like
Yeah.
what are we doing? I think I
Yeah.
think honestly though, it wasn't even Peter because they kind of set it up. Like at this point, this is what's gotta happen. I'm gonna kill her or you're gonna have to kill me. Like I read that. But before that is what really pissed me off because you are not going to make me believe that you go from not being a killer to wanting to be police chief so bad, chief of police so bad that you move a body, but then you go into the chief of police's house and commit a murder in her face. Because if you wanted it that bad, were you going to do it anyway? You could have killed her a long time ago. You could have
Also,
burned her.
so I have two things to say. First of all, if you are going to have a morally gray character cross the line, I first need to know where their line is set. I need to know where their line is in order for them to cross a line. And I don't feel like that was established. Or if we can even consider, because that's what they tried to make him, but if we can even consider Hank Pryor a morally great character, because like I said, from day one, he's an asshole. But second thing, the thing that meme that always goes around of like the older lady when she sees Steve Harvey on screen at the verses and she's like, oh, the thing that made me just sigh out loud is when he just says like, oh yeah, by the way, I didn't kill her, but I just moved the body. Like the fact, like that is so like
You just
that
murdered a man.
that is so just like but even from like just a writing standpoint, that is almost so villainy. Like, let me tell you the master plan before I die. Like,
All the man says it's not. Here though. Let me give you something else. Okay. So
uh-huh,
back to gray areas, right? And
mhm,
morally gray and whatever else. I know they set it up, y'all. I promise I know they did. I know they did. The whole point of Wheeler was them showing us what Navarro and Danvers are capable of. Emphasis on Navarro. I get it. It still felt out of character for her to jump into action like that and be like, hey, uh, we just get rid of that and we just gonna go to this cave because I mean we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna cover this one up because if we don't, the kid's gonna go to jail and blah 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 blah. So get him to get rid of his dad's body because you and I have something way more important, and
mhm.
that's to go to this cave and figure out what happened to Annie K.
So I'm actually gonna slightly disagree with you here because that's the one thing to me from a character motivation standpoint that feels plausible because we know that all right, so if one person has been somewhat established as a character well, I feel like it's Navarro. Oddly enough, I feel like she is the main character of the show, although we spend the most time with Danvers. So Navarro is so like devoted to the Annie K case that anything related, I feel like she would jump into action. So the fact that he said his little thing right before, he was gone for good, I think that was the thing that like said like, okay, we're back on the case. We're jumping into action and we're doing this so we can. So that's the one thing. That is the one thing that I'm actually like, okay, I could buy it. But as we said previously, what I don't buy is the plan, like the plan to where we're taking him.
I get it, but again, I think maybe it's because my whole thing was since the beginning, Navarro has been shown to be this loving, kind, gentle soul, right? And maybe this just okay. I mean, maybe it's just for people who she feels are deserving because there are people that are like that. I'm only kind to people who I think deserve kindness. And if you just murder somebody, then maybe you don't deserve kindness. I don't know.
Yeah, and we
No,
already know
really
that
don't know.
she already we already know that she has beef with him when he shows up at the search with
His army,
11 drunk Alaskans. Yeah, and
reasonable, reasonable. I think also too, the night is fucking me up because I'm like, you had to go like at that moment, but I don't know what time it was, so I don't know.
mhm,
Like that also changes things because if this happened at 8 a.m., I get it. You
yeah,
get it done before people get up and start moving around. But I'm like, it's 3 in the morning, y'all come move. But again, I don't know what time it was. Maybe
yeah.
it was.
Also,
I don't
also, I'll say this. I feel like the setting actually hurts the show because the night thing is unless someone specifically says like, oh yeah, it was 9 a.m. It's really hard to know like, is this a new day? Is this the same day? Yeah, it's really hard keeping up with that. So the setting and I guess the season actually hurts the show too, in my opinion.
and I guess that's the point though, right? Like the whole point of it is this is what it's like. So we know what time it is because we're just looking and we got to go about our day. But to everybody else, this is just
Mhm.
darkness, and that's fine. Like whatever. I don't. Leah, you want to talk about Leah or no? And her
Sure.
girlfriend. Okay, Leah went to the protest with her girlfriend. And again, that's what I was asking. Because remember, I was like, well, what is Leah's motivation? And it was that girl. Now, I do think it's changed since she's gone. It's almost like you don't realize you're passionate about something until maybe you are actually involved.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking that's what it was. Her girlfriend may have brought her. Well, I should say ex now because I hope that's ex girlfriend, but
I mean, it
she
should
got
be
her
after she,
involved.
yeah.
she got her she got her involved, and then she actually started to care about the cause. But when it came down to it, a girl was like, "Oh,
She wasn't
you
really down for the
I
cause. She
don't
was
really
like,
know what to
hey,
tell you. Yeah, I don't
she
know what
like,
to
I
tell
don't know
you.
what
You
to
shouldn't
tell you. I don't know who this
wouldn't
is.
wouldn't let that be me though. So she just left her, and I liked how Navarro stepped up for her. That was cool because he shouldn't have been hitting her. There was no
Mhm,
reason for that. But like again, the protest turned into something ugly. Like she didn't have to,
mhm,
but it did, and we see now that um that was orchestrated, right? Because that was the
mhm,
lady, the mind lady. They're all
mhm,
trying to make it like like most times the protesters are the bad
mhm.
ones, and this was a peaceful protest, but I'm out here in my riot gear, so it's got to be terrible. But like I also want that to get somewhere too because I understand it. I understand that that's what the people in the town are concerned about, what they care about, because they're literally killing the people in the town. They were there before. They'll be there when they leave. But where are we going? Because these caves, what could they be? What is it? What's in there?
Also this, okay. Also this. By the way, I don't claim any credit for like catching this one because I also feel like it was one of those heavily telegraphed. The mine and Salel were linked, like that was telegraphed. But if kind of like let's go back to the season one and the Childress and Tuttle families. Like it was established because like we saw like the churches everywhere throughout the season. Like we knew that their presence was wide, their presence was felt. I kind of feel like the mind part of things, like we only know about the minds through the perspective of the protesters, but the presence of the mind hasn't been felt until now, really.
Hmm.
And if this is your big bad of the season, then like it's almost like you just drop it with no warning.
It's been in the shadows the whole time. I mean, because it's been there. Like they mentioned it. They've talked
No,
about
and that's
it.
what
They
I'm saying.
make sure
And
to
that's
say
what I'm
something about the
saying.
water every episode. But as far as big bad, you're right. It's kind of like,
But that's what I'm saying. Like
oh,
if we're like if it's almost like imagine watching a Scooby Doo episode and they no really like this is gonna be my analogy. Imagine watching a Scooby Doo episode and they rip the mask off the monster and it's a person that they hadn't shown in the entire episode
hmm.
up until that point. Like that's the first. Like this is what it feels like.
That's what Hank felt like to me. Even though he's been there,
Yeah,
it still felt like that to me. Um, because it was such a heinous, like it was such. He shot the man in the head, like in front of the chief of police. I'm not gonna get over that. She was standing right there. But anyway, I'm
because
I'm just assuming
because
he
at
was
that
planning to kill her
point,
too.
yeah, because he was. Because I was about to say at that point, your only choice is to then kill the chief of police, which is like if that was your motivation, then you just literally killed your motivation. So like, what are we doing here? What are we doing?
Well, what have we done? Because this is it. I have high hopes for part six.
I I
High
don't
hopes.
possibly know. I don't possibly know what can be left to show us.
I have no idea where they can go with it. Like I have no clue. And the caves, there has to be something important down there? Like, are they gonna find who are they looking for? What's his name? Oliver? No, not Oliver. What's his
Yeah,
name? Who's missing? The one that's with the coat. Where is
Lark.
he?
Yeah,
Him.
he's he- he's in the night country. But no,
We're all in the night country.
also like, all right, so this is more of like a personal pet peeve, I guess. I feel like we're also recontextualizing the spiral and what it means.
Hmm.
Because when Kavik comes in and they're like, "Oh yeah, if you see that, that means stay away, even if you're a hunter." And I'm just like, that's not what it means when we saw it previously. So like we're defining what the spiral means, or redefining, I should say. And it's like it's now is in direct conflict with the spirit of the original show, because I'm just like, what are we doing here? Because if that's all right, so if we get down to the caves and there's no spiral, there's no, I guess, version of Carcosa for this, there's no, then you have to go back to asking the only question at this point: why was this presented as a link to True Detective?
Well, they could have just left it with Travis. They
Why
really
why
could have.
was Travis even mentioned? Why was Travis
Cause,
even mentioned? Because
cause we needed Rose. Ask another question.
but
I got to
did
answer for everything.
but did we? Because
Ask it.
all right,
Rose. We needed
so
Rose so we can so she could go through the ice to to put the ashes in the ocean. What else you got? Give me something else. I got an answer for
what
every
what
question you got.
what are you expecting from the last episode?
Except that one. Except that one. Um, but here's the thing. This is these are the things I'm willing to let the mystery be. Um, I'm okay with them not explaining her mom. Like that's okay if you don't talk about
Mhm,
Navarro's mom, because I can just accept that that was more so to show us that she has a history of mental illness in her family. I'm okay
mhm.
with that.
Yeah, yeah, I'm okay
Um,
with that too.
I'm actually okay if we just let Hank Pryor be dead and that's it. Whatever. That's cool. I feel like Rose is gonna come back for some reason. I don't know. Maybe because they mentioned her. But if she doesn't come back, that's fine. What I do want to see is um I think Annie K will be solved within the whole revealing of the night
Yeah,
country.
yeah, it's
So
all linked. Yeah.
yeah, so that's fine. Now, what that has to do with the water and the mines? Well, I guess they explain that though, right? Because the Salal
Mhm,
they're all bankrolling each other. So that's
mhm.
I'm just too tired to care about that anymore. Um, I would like to see what happened though to the people, only because that was the whole setup for the season. Like I want to see what they saw, who she is that's awake, that made them walk out or whatever, or petrified them, and what that good stuff was. Oh, this is what I meant to ask you. The significance of Julia taking off her clothes and stacking them neatly like that, was that supposed to be a callback to the researcher stuff, or just a coincidence?
No, no, yeah. Now that you mention, I think that's a callback. Yeah,
So
yeah,
they
yeah.
potentially did the same thing. They were about to just leave their stuff and walk out into whatever, and then something else scared them. It couldn't have been because she's awake was what started the whole thing.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
because
I
even
don't know,
even
man.
Otis even Otis says that, like, he was like, yeah, he kept going on about how she's awake and she's coming.
Yeah. So I'd like to know. If nothing else, I want to know who she is. And I honestly don't even care about the caves. Like I don't care. I don't know we're going down there, but I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
really care about any of it anymore. I just want it to be over. At this point, I do.
yeah. Same here.
What if
I tr-
what if it's another season like this was part A?
no, 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 fuck no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Absolutely not. Uh-uh.
I feel
Uh-uh.
like this was all a
Uh-uh.
setup. This was building the groundwork, and then next season is Night Country.
Like the ending just go like fades to
It just
black
go,
like
yeah,
the
it just
ending is
fades to black.
Sopranos. Yeah, like no, no, to be continued. No, no, no,
Night
no.
Country, Corcosa, Night Country, True Detective Corcosa filing.
90th country,
The
90th country.
90th,
No,
90th, the 90th
no,
country. 90th
no.
country is.
But look, no, no,
What do you
no.
expect? Or what would you like to see? What could turn it around even a
So
little?
so obviously, like I said, I well, nothing can turn it around. But like I said, we know that um basically an environmental crime is at the bottom of this. Um, the mines are it's a strong probability that they're directly um tied to Annie K's murder. Not the only thing is if Clark's involvement, like because he has never stopped being suspect number one, but how was he involved? Was he, because we know that the Salal people were pretty much in cahoots with the mines. So we just got to see how it's all interlinked. So solving one will solve the other essentially. But us, but I just say that it's not really like underneath the ice. There's not a truly compelling story here. There's not a good story here. I'm sorry.
Are we gonna get any answers about her tongue? Or is that just a thing that's in there? Because if he moved her body, did he also stab her all those times and cut her tongue out or no? Because that was at the site still, right? Did he couldn't have kept it and then brought it back. Like that'd just
Yeah,
be
because
stupid,
because
right?
because here's the thing too, and you could tell this was all right. So this character was written specifically to give us a bit of information for a TV show because if he wanted them to know the information right before he died, when he have said like I'm not even saying Clark did it, but Clark killed her. I just helped move the body instead of just
Mhm.
saying I didn't kill her. Like you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So why even phrase it like that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I guess because he wanted them to keep looking, maybe? Maybe. Like if I'm going to die, if I'm not going to be the chief of police, like that means these folks lied to me and I want to take them down. So in my last, with my last breath,
But that's not taking them down though.
is maybe that's what I'm saying. He knows that they'll keep digging. So
Well, why not just
they'll
give
finally figure
them
it
the answers at that point? Like,
out.
why
Man
not
was
just
about to die.
literally
Who
tell
know?
them?
Who knows what goes through your mind when you're about to die? But that's the thing. Maybe he was just saying, "I'm gonna give him enough just in case I don't die.
Sure,
If I don't
sure.
die, I don't know. I'm just saying, maybe
But
if I
look.
don't die, then they'll know that it wasn't me. If I do die, they'll know that it wasn't me. But that's all they know. They got to be true
But look.
detectives and figure it out.
I'm still waiting on the True Detective. But look, we have the Bear coming in June. We have Severance coming sometime later this year. TV is on the way, folks. This was just this is the first show we covered of 2024, but TV is on the way. And through all of this, whether you agree or disagree, I just really hope that you know that, like I said, we don't like to delve into hot takes. Like when we, talk about a show, we really like to, analyze the show and get critical. So I would just like to say, if we have reached this conclusion, just know that we have given the show every single chance we possibly can. like if you even
Stuff with
reflect
it.
on our yeah, if you even reflect on our recap of like episode 2, we were just like, hey, it's is going somewhere. And it's like, yeah. So yeah, but yeah, once again, let us know what you think if you like the show. If you've been liking the show, want to know why, just let us know, drop us some comments. But yeah, as usual,
Would actually like to know if you like it because you can tell me why you like it and I'd be interested. And I'm not being facetious. I'm serious. I like when we have opposite views. Like when people if people like something and they consume it the same way I did, but they got a different take from it, let me know because maybe I'll watch and look at it differently the next
yeah,
time.
that yeah,
Once again, but
that makes it interesting. We're here for discourse. We're here with for various opinions. It would be very boring if we all shared the same,
mm-hmm.
you know. But yeah, just let us know what you think. Um, you know, as always, RIP to
Big Brian, he didn't kill her.
yeah, but yeah, until next time. Peace.